Hi, my name is Rick Brimacombe, and on behalf of the Minneapolis Club and my firm, Brimacombe Capital, welcome to Club E. As I mentioned, our discussion today is love and marriage and work, life and a family business with Carol and Larry Abdo. For those of you who are here about a year and a half ago or so, when Larry spoke, you'll know that it's going to be an entertaining as well as informative session with the Abdos. Before we get to our speakers, I want to thank our Club E sponsors. Irish Titan is an e-commerce and strategic digital agency. Boulay CPAs are business advisors, in addition to being CPAs. And Rich Lehman, where's Rich? Is here somewhere. Right over here to my right. And Rich will come up in a couple of minutes and talk for a moment. Highland Bank is a local family-owned community bank. Winthrop and Weinstein, general practice law firm. Minnesota Sales Institute works with company leadership and sales teams to increase revenue. And the Network Connect is a catalytic gateway for connecting investors, companies, and service providers. Dick Summerstead is off to my right over here. Dick's my partner in the Network Connect. Just a reminder, the RSVPs end up 24 hours in advance. So if you came in yesterday afternoon and like, oh, it's sold out. No, they shut it down 24 hours in advance. So try to remember to get signed up if you can. As far as connecting with the group, clube.com has videos of all the past events as well as a business directory and other information on the group. There's a LinkedIn group, Club E-Minneapolis. It has about 2,800 Club E members in it that you can connect. And then we also have a meetup group and email list that you can sign up for on the website. Minneapolis Club has been my partner in doing this for 13 years. It's been a wonderful relationship. I'm very grateful for them. Andrea's out in the hall, and she'd love to tell you more about the club if you'd like to learn more. Similarly, where's Betsy? Betsy Buckley. Sitting over here, Betsy's a wonderful ambassador for the Minneapolis Club. She can tell you more, or I can tell you how I've used it with both my children and my family as well as for work. Lessons from the Garage is a series of video podcasts, about 250 titles so far. I do that with Dick Summerstead of the Network Connect. You can learn more about Lessons from the Garage, kind of a Netflix for entrepreneurs. You can learn more about that, talk to Dick or myself. And then lastly, with it being tax season, I thought I would introduce you to Rich Lehman of Boulay. As I mentioned, he's a partner there as well as part of their executive committee. Rich, why don't you come on up? And I thought he might say a few things, again, given the time of year that it is. Rich.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the introduction. This is a tax season. Last year, if you recall, the tax rules changed significantly and impacted a lot of individuals and businesses, and the state of Minnesota, fortunately, did adopt conformity finally because it felt like we were preparing about 3 or 4 different returns for each person last year. What the state of Minnesota told us was, don't bother amending, we'll fix it for you. So if you're individuals that have small businesses, you're going to start seeing some notices from the state of Minnesota over the next couple of years. They actually did say it's going to be a couple of years that they're going to go back. And my confidence in them getting it perfectly correct is not as high as what theirs is. So keep that in mind. Boulay is a CPA firm. We started in the Southwest Metro. We have a downtown office, also a Naples office, and about 220 people in the firm. One of the things that really excites me about this session is we work with a lot of small family-owned companies and have seen the good and the bad, and have worked with a lot of families in the succession planning aspect as well. So looking forward to today. Thanks again, Rick.
Thanks, Rich. And again, a reminder about the sponsors. They're the ones that make these events possible. So to the extent that you need some support on the accounting, tax, and advisory side, Boulay can help you with your needs in that area. Future events, I put this sheet out on the table. There's a couple per table. On the right-hand side of that particular sheet, there's a list of all the upcoming events. I won't go through them all, other than say we have next week in St. Paul, Explosive Growth for your digital presence. Chum Struve is right off to my right. Chum runs the St. Paul group. That's February 19th at the University Club in St. Paul. And then February 20th in Maple Grove for the Love of Food, a conversation also about the food business, which we'll hear a little bit about today with the Abdos. That's at the Rush Creek Golf Course up in Maple Grove. And then, let's see, off to my right here, Lucas, Robin to Batman, anyway, Robin over here. Lucas is running a panel on March 5th about starting and running businesses in your 20s and 30s, so igniting entrepreneurship early. Lucas is going to be leading that group next month on March 5th. There's some other things, but again, the sheet on the tables if you're interested to talk about future events, or you can get stuff at clube.com. Okay, so that leads us to our conversation today. The Abdos, why don't you come on up? Just a quick backstory as to how I've interacted with them. I met Larry through what eventually became the Irish Angels, and he'll give you a little discussion around that. And so I got into a venture fund with Larry, that was like maybe 20 years ago, and then he's been both a friend as well as a business mentor, and then got to know Carol over the last handful of years, and it's been a real joy to interact with them both on a personal front as well as a professional front. And so it's an honor and a privilege to have them both here to talk about love, marriage, and work, especially in the month of February. It's kind of apropos, and Carol's got the lovely red blazer on there, so she's fitting right in. And then as I take a step up here, just to let you know how we're going to run this, we have a couple of sections of topics that I'm going to talk about, and we have some questions that we'll go through, but there will be an opportunity for Q&A either at the end, or if you have something really pressing, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, I will hop up there and we will get to our topic today. So you two, if you don't mind, you can share that.
Oh, sharing again. Okay, that's good.
So we get a little dynamics as to how the sharing goes, as to who controls the microphone here.
He always gets the clicker.
He gets the clicker?
Yeah. But I fall asleep early, so she gets it afterwards anyway.
That's right.
All right, so the first thing, tell us a little bit about who you are as people. Maybe there's a cute story about how you met, but children, grandchildren, the various businesses that you're in.
First of all, thank you, Rick, for including us in your club within a club. It's real fun to be here, and the Minneapolis Club has been such an institution that being included in it makes me feel really, really special. Carol and I have been together for about 50 years. We both graduated from the University of Minnesota in the B School, or the business school. At the time, our graduating class was 266 people. Carol was the only woman in the class. So just think about how hard I had to work. And I mean, it was work. This is a girl who lived in St. Paul, and I was in South Minneapolis.
East side of St. Paul.
And I paid her $10 to go on a date with me. And
On Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
At his brother's engagement party. He needed a date.
Shows you how smart I was. Well, when we were in school at the time, it was during the 60s, and for those of us in this age group, you know that the 60s was a horrible time with the protests and the war and, burning of this and sit-inning that and tie-dye shirts. And I took the opposite tact and decided that I would wear glasses, a three-piece suit, cut my hair short, smoke a cigar, and play the stock market. So one of our first dates off school was just going from great restaurant to great restaurant in downtown Minneapolis. So lunch for us was Harry's, Charlie's, the Flame Room, the Dykeman, the Curtis Hotel. Murray's, yeah, don't forget Tim, poor guy. And so through that courtship, I found out that not only was she kind of a foodie, but she really liked steak. So this was not a salad person at all. And one of the things that I remember from the beginning is that, and this may sound strange to you, but when I would sit across the table from her and we would be eating, I just liked the way she ate. And I realized that I could sit across from this woman all my life and just realize I would be so comfortable with her at the dinner table. So one day, she was sitting in class, and I was late as usual, and we had been dating for maybe 4 or 5 months, and she had her leg crossed like that with a gray miniskirt that was up just a little too far. And I said, might as well stick a fork in it because I was just done that day.
I think you said it all.
All right, so in the spirit of not bearing the lead, you've been married for almost 50 years. You have 4 wonderful children, 6 great grandchildren. You have the businesses. You work together. You play together. How did you do it?
I think it was just all real natural. It just kind of started at the beginning, and it just hasn't stopped. We've just done everything together. When we first got married, I was working for my dad. It was really hard to get a job as a woman who had a business degree. You guys didn't know what to do with us. Truly, I went in for interviews at the University of Minnesota. You know how you signed up for, different time slots? And I was interviewing with some of the big companies, and my name is spelled Caryl, which could be Carl. So when I would walk into the interview, the guys would go, whoa, you have a business degree? And I'd say, yes. So the first thing they would ask me is, how fast can I type? And how fast can I take shorthand? So I wasn't interested in that. So it was really hard for me to get jobs. So I worked for my dad for quite a while. And then Larry was in the brokerage business and started his own brokerage house. And we started doing some things together. And one of the first things that we did together was the state fair. He was doing the ice, and I helped him with the ice, and then we opened up a food business at the Minnesota State Fair. But we did it together. So it was just kind of a natural progression through the years. And then with our kids, we just kind of brought the kids along. We didn't leave them behind. They were with us whenever we went. Mandy's our oldest, she would ride on an ice truck with us, sit in her car seat in between us, and she was in the semi, and we'd drive and deliver ice. So it was just kind of a natural thing.
It was really, exceptionally natural. The amazing part about it, and what still happens today, is just the concept sharing just happens in normal conversation. I mean, it's just like an interruption of something, or just standing at the sink or standing at the copy machine and just sort of emoting about something that you're thinking about or that you're wanting to do, or how this didn't work out, or what should we do about that. And an awful lot of what I call just talking down the corridor in high school as you're walking past your locker from class to class. I mean, more conversations get done, more important things get discussed while you're not planning on doing it, but you're just naturally letting it happen. And it's not forcing it to happen, it just sort of naturally happened.
So in hindsight, what have you enjoyed most about this kind of lifestyle, and maybe what was more challenging parts?
I think it's just being together and having the family time with the kids. We we didn't worry about having quality time with the kids. We just had time. They just came along with us. They didn't want to be left behind. They wanted to come with us and work with us on what we were doing, and consequently they were interested in what we were doing. So I just, that was a real good family builder, I think.
Retrospectively, I think we just had a lot of trust in each other. We trusted what we were doing. We trusted what our judgment was. We trusted what the contribution was. It was just really an unspoken trust about what was happening to us, and that was a real privilege to be able to have that and to do that, and that still exists today. And one of the things about trust that's really important is that I was never told that I need to get a job. I was told that I needed to fund the household, but I was never told to get a job. So that was left up to me, and I could fill an hour of just the crazy things that I had to do from day to day or between opportunities to make sure that she had what she asked for. And I think one of the reasons that it happens is I've never broken my marriage promise from the day we got married, which was, we were going to do this and have that, and you would be happy and secure because of our relationship, and I never broke it. And I remind myself of that, and we tell our children that. In fact, with our kids, this is one of my best moments with my kids. So they're grown up, and they're boys, and they're cantankerous, and they're fighting, and then they're going after their mom. And you break them up, and you say, don't treat your mother like that. I never treated my mother like that. You can't treat your mother like that. Didn't work. And one day, one of my sons was, arguing with Carol, and I walked up and I grabbed him, and I said, you know what? This may be your mother, but this is my girlfriend. Don't screw with my girlfriend. And that changed the whole dynamic of how that worked, because it became very clear to them that it was a contract between the two of us, and it was blood between all of us. And the contract could be torn up at any time. And this is my girlfriend, and I still date her. Because if I thought I was married, I'd probably have a different aspect or a different feeling about life.
All right, so you both talked about parts that you liked, didn't get into maybe things that were challenging. Maybe that was on purpose, I'm not sure, but I'll ask the question the second time. What were the challenges of living that lifestyle?
Well, I'm kind of a workaholic. I like to work. I like to do many different things, but when I get involved in a project, I really go after it, and I have a hard time turning it off. So when you work together all day, and then you come home at night, and you're sitting watching TV, and I've got all this stuff from work going through my head, it's like a file that won't stop, and I start asking him questions. He just looks at me and says, "Can you leave it alone?" I'm not answering that question. We're not talking about that now. So I think the hardest thing the hard thing for me is to turn it off, and to know when to stop, and to know, when to give you your time.
And that's the hardest thing for me too. She wouldn't stop. It was like, stop it. Done. When we were in school, we were at the U, we would, socialize with people, and we'd be together, and then, there was a time to study, and we'd go to Walter Library, or actually we think we liked going over to the dental school. They had a better library there. And she'd be flirting around, talking to everybody. Remember, she's the only woman in the 280-some people class. And 10 o'clock came, and I just said, okay, I'm going home. I'm done. And they said, what do you mean? Got to cram for a test tomorrow. I said, hey, I'm done. 10 o'clock, I'm done. I'm not doing anything past 10 o'clock. Whether I win, lose, or fail the test, I'm done. And I would go home. And I would see her in the morning, and I said, when did you go home? She said, well, I've been here all night. I pulled an all-nighter. I said, God, that's her. I mean, she still can go all night. At 10 o'clock, I am 5 minutes or 15 minutes of Perry Mason, and I'm asleep. I'm just done with it.
But that works really good when you have kids, because aren't you up all night with your kids? The kids are fussing, and they're doing stuff, and you're waiting for them to come home from a date and whatever, and I've learned to function on very, very little sleep. It's just kind of my second nature. So I think it's been a good thing and a bad thing.
Talk a little bit about what the office environment is like what the family environment is like, and is it really kind of any different?
Well, I'm really lucky because I get to see my kids every single day. They all work in our business, and as a mom in the office, I can be the mom. I can also be kind of a taskmaster, too. I mean, I can yell at my kids and tell them they have to do this, or get me that information, or we need to pay these bills, or whatever. But I'm still the mom. And you get to see a different side of each one of your kids, and a different personality comes out from your kids, and I think you really get to understand your kids. So I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great.
It's not so great for me sometimes, but when they barge in and decide we need to figure this out, I'm going, hell, I figured that out like 30 years ago. I don't know. I just take it on faith. But no, we got to go through the process. But the family life, I drive it. I drive it all the time. We are together. Nobody's obligated to come to dinner or in any event. We learned that from one of the challenges we had in our marriage was Carol's mother, who demanded attendance, and Sundays, and football, and I never liked gravy or football, so it was tough. But in our household, it's very clear that there's no obligation to come, which is sort of like the reverse close. You don't have to come. Well, what are you doing, Dad? Well, we're all going to Yarusso's for spaghetti tonight. It's Wednesday night. We're all going to go to, who wants to go to Yarusso's? Or who wants to go to Carboni's? And most of the time, just about everybody comes. And for dinner on Sunday, they come, they bring their kids. Hell, our kids now bring their in-laws because they're like in real small families. So, we get together, it's like 20 of us, which is the immediate family. But I push it. I cook with Carol. We plan dinners to get together. We set a great table. We take pride in that. And we entertain for our friends a lot, and then we would have, kitchen dinner with our kids. I said, well, why don't we just do this for our children? I mean, they're more important to us than our friends. They're going to hate us eventually anyway. So we set a great table. We have great opportunities to get together. And, every Christmas is, this is probably a good example. Christmas, there's 50 of us. And I figured, we just can't do the standard Christmas, and this started this trend that we do now. So I bought a play. I bought a 35 speaking part play and made everybody be part of the play. And we sent out all of the scripts, underlined their part, took different parts of the family that were in the music, stagehand, costuming, and the play was supposed to take 20 minutes. An hour and a half later, when we finally stopped laughing, that was a great Christmas. But for family life and what is it like at home, I love to push it. I love to include the kids. They can bring whoever they want. But I'm not going to let a day go by with my family where I have a regret that we didn't do something when we could have done it. We had the means to do it, the heart to do it, and the facility to do it.
I was going to ask a question about boundaries and separation, but maybe the answer is there isn't really much of boundaries or separation.
I have my own bathroom now. That counts.
Okay, that's a boundary and a separation. That's good. All right, so the children, and I say children because my kids are now getting older as well, the children are taking over the various businesses. John at My Burger, Corey at the Nicollet Island Inn, Paul at Abdo Properties, and everybody's doing the State Fair and Big Fat Bacon. A, how is that going? B, what's it like for the two of you to go through that transition? And then C, what do you think it's like from the children's perspective?
Well, I would say, how is it having your children in your business? It took a while for me to come to grips with how I would define that, and I think I've got it down right. Every day is a mutiny.
They would like to have more control than they have. They're trying to learn the business. They think they know the business, but there are things that they don't know, and they don't really want to listen to what we have to say. It's hard. And at the fair, the three boys do the ice, and then Mandy and her cousin Tina do Big Fat Bacon. And I guess I'm out there more than Larry is.
Currently.
Currently,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was 10 o'clock and I just went home. You remember that?
And I always stay for the close, which is usually about 1 o'clock in the morning. So. Well, we do have bunks out at the ice house, but we've never stayed there.
I've been asked many times, but no, we've never stayed.
We've never stayed overnight. So it's the kids would love to be able. They would love to think that they could just take over and do it all, but it's a process. You know, they're taking more and more.
Restaurant and hospitality industry are changing, costs are rising, many of which are driven by government intervention. Dining habits are evolving, massive demographic and generational shifts going on. How are all of you navigating this change? What do you think the impact is going to be on your children? And then how are they adapting given their respective ages and perspectives?
You want to take a stab at that?
Oh. Boy. Well, our grandchildren want to be involved with what's going on. So that's kind of like Lily, our 10-year-old granddaughter, has been coming up with ideas for different kinds of malts at the Myburger. But being in the hospitality business is not easy. It's really rough, especially in the state of Minnesota, especially in the city of Minneapolis. A lot of restaurants are going out of business. It's hard to hold on. Labor costs are going up, insurance costs are going up, food costs are going up, expectations of the customer and the service that they want is going up, and it's really hard to get employees.
You know, you can see her wisdom. I mean, she has a good understanding of all the stuff that is difficult in the restaurant business. I'm unaware of all of that. We should meet more often on that topic, Carol. I love the restaurant business. I think it is the best business because it's hospitality. And hospitality includes people. And, you know, without interaction with people and without being able to understand the change in people and the change in the need or the requirement for people, the only place you really get that is in hospitality, because you're crossing so many different age groups, so many different flavors, and you know I see it every day. And you have to create a reason to meet people. I mean, just go back to the play for a minute. I mean, I never thought of this, but now that I open my big mouth, go back to the play for a minute where we bought a play just to be able to take and satisfy this large family over a holiday. You know, the inn, which I spend most of my time at in the hospitality, you know, we always are looking for what we need to provide in order for our guests to be happy when they're there or to come back. You know, Christmas came up, the holidays came up, and you know, Carol and I were, you know, dating. I mean, I like to be out almost every night. I like to go places on the weekend, and we check out what's happening. And it appeared to me that we went to one of her favorite places, which is Ruth Chris, and they painted it gray with white trim, which like seems everybody has done that. Then we go from restaurant to restaurant. They've got some music that, you know, you wish that they had closed captions someplace you could hear what they're trying to say. And it was the same color, and it was so noisy that you couldn't talk. And you would get, you know, a very fancy imported mushroom or something that cost a lot of money, and you're supposed to be happy with that. And I go back to my inn, and I realize, you know, I think I'm just going to go the other direction. So before Christmas started, I bought 6 chandeliers and had them hung up. I painted the walls in a color that I chose by walking retail at the Mall of America and at Gavaday, and took pictures of all the windows of women's fashion and realized that there was only one common color that everybody had in upcoming women's fashion. It was a dark plum. And I painted the restaurant a dark plum with 6 chandeliers. And we were so happy with that, and what she was talking about, I ignored completely. And we had a fabulous Christmas, and we had fabulous responses to our our ambiance at the end. So you have to be alert, and you have to be creative, and you have to really love serving people. And as a family, we like to do that. As a couple, we like to do that. And as restaurateurs, that's really important to us. My burger is simple. I mean, 3 things are not going out of fashion in America. 1 is going to be coffee, 2 is going to be burgers, and 3 is going to be pizza. I mean, this is not a hard thing to figure out. When 10 billion hamburgers are sold a year, that's not going to go away. If it goes down to 6 billion, I think we're still pretty good. But at my burger, we don't have drive-through. We won't have drive-through. If you want to buy from us, you've got to come and talk to us. And, that is against, when you read all the magazines, a third of the business is, drive-through. We can't do that. We don't think that that's a sustainable model. We have got repeat customers. We understand what they want. We're able to adjust to it. And, we're a neighborhood. We're not in any malls. We're embedded in neighborhoods. We like to consider ourselves as a homegrown company with homegrown values, and that we actually can train and talk to our customers. So John, who's doing my burger, looks at all the food costs. You can see Carol's looking at all the food costs at the end. And I'm just the guy that loves the business and wants to make sure we're providing something really cool every day.
And having been myself to your various properties, you do a great job at it, especially like the Christmas decorations at the end. Nicely done. When we were talking about this panel, you mentioned that you weren't a family business. You mentioned that you were a family that owned businesses. What did you mean by that, and what might the audience take away from that statement?
I think what's kind of evolved is that we don't have one large company in which everybody has their own responsibility. We hired a nice, prestigious group to help you, with family businesses, and we had a meeting, and we had everybody there, and they said, okay, the first principle that we have to talk about is in a family business, you have to have a strong enough constitution, and everybody has to understand that if you don't do your job, you get fired. I said, okay, that ain't going to work, so let's move on to lunch. So when you start with the fact that you're not going to fire your children, now, I don't know if that's smart. I mean, I'm not saying that's smart. I'm just saying we're not going to fire our children. And Carol would always say, you lose the business before you lose the family. And that was one of the, the commitments that I made to her and promises that I made to her. I'll flush the business before we flush any of our children. Unless the business, of course, flushes first, then, it's just nothing you can do about it. So our children have naturally gravitated to different businesses. So what we really have is a family that owns businesses, between all the other things that were mentioned earlier. And I think what that's migrated to is that now we're probably at the point where we have to just give that particular business to that child, because they're all 30s and 40s, and just say, if you like this so much, good question though, do you like this enough to own this? And if the answer is yes, we'll have to figure out a way just to give each one of them what they're doing so they can be responsible enough without having to, check in with, mom or dad. I think that's how that's going to end up going.
I think that's true. I think that each one of the kids is proprietary on what they're doing, and they want to hold it all in. They don't always want to share what's going on with each one of their businesses because they've all worked so hard at what they're doing. It can cross-pollinate a little bit, but not a lot. So I think that's probably the approach we'll end up having to take.
I hope there's something left for us.
As I recall, one of the things, Larry, you talked about last time you spoke was your planning for the future. I don't know if you remember that or not, or lack thereof. Do you want to comment on how you decided to plan, which was you're not going to plan?
My plan is I die before Carol. Yeah, that was the original plan. Still might work out that way. But what I just said about transferring the business interests to those that have the interest in the business is seeming to be a direction it's going to go. The other thing that does is that kind of frees me up to do something else. Now that they're consumed with what they've got, I could actually, start something else or buy something else that I'd like to do.
Okay. The two of you are involved or have been involved in 3 different things in education. Notre Dame, U of M, De La Salle. Talk a little bit about those three things, what you're doing there, or what you did there, why you did it, what you're getting out of it.
I'll talk about the Abdo dinner series that we're doing. I would say we've had 500 students go through probably 25 different dinners. At the inn, we host 8 couples at a time, 2 to 3 times a year, and they come in for dinner and wine and drinks, and we talk about what it's like to be married to an entrepreneur. And these kids that are going through the business school at Carlson and are part of the entrepreneurial program, they're scared. They have no idea. I'm talking about the spouses of the students. They don't know what to expect. They don't know how businesses run. They don't know what they're getting in for. And so what we try to do is say that, you can talk to each other. You can trust in each other. You can build confidence in each other. You can have a family. You can bring your kids with you. You don't have to leave them home. There's never any good time to have kids. These are all questions that they ask. They don't even know how to run a checkbook together. I mean, you would think that they would. They're working on their master's degrees, but a lot of times they don't. So through our dinners, we're hoping that we can, get through to them that it's doable. You have to be open. You have to trust. You have to have confidence in each other, and you can work it out. Now, we've gotten thank you notes after our dinners from different couples. One thank you note was, "Thank you for the information. We started the conversation, and we're not going to be together because my partner doesn't want to have anything to do with this. It's just too scary." And others have said, well, I can tell you, we were at the inn one night, and this woman came running up to me, gave me the biggest hug, and she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "Well, help me, tell me, give me your name." And she said, "We were at one of your dinners," and she pulled out a picture of her 2-year-old daughter, and she said, "We would never have her in our life if it hadn't been for the dinner that we attended, and you actually gave us permission to go ahead and have kids." I mean, and that's just like my heart, And so we've had these different experiences with these MBA kids, and I think that we're getting through to them. I think they're enjoying the dinners. I think it's important.
And we also talk about two other topics that are valuable to us and that we like to share with them. And again, we don't expect everybody to believe it or believe us, but we talk about who is really the caretaker of the relationship. Understand who that is. There's always somebody. It doesn't have to be. It's usually one of you that cares about cherishing the relationship, so you always protect it. And I think it's something that naturally happens, but you don't just naturally recognize it. And we've had some really good comments about that too. Somebody had asked one time, well, can I be the caretaker and then later he can be the caretaker? I said, no, that's not how it works. You either are the caretaker or you aren't. And once you recognize that, and if you can actually believe in that, your relationship is much better because you know who you're relying on to make sure that it's stable. I'm the caretaker in our relationship. I mean, I'm the crazy one. I'm the one that will do anything to protect my girlfriend. The other thing that we talk about is building equity in your marriage. Running a parallel balance sheet with your business and with your marriage. But you know exactly what to do with the equity you have in your business. You can buy, expand, you can distribute, you can grow. But what do you really you look at that balance sheet, and it's really important on how you bank, the decisions that you make. Look at the balance sheet that you have in your marriage. Do you have enough equity in the balance sheet of your marriage so that if something goes wrong, like in your business, that you've got enough equity to get through it? So we talk about that, we give examples about how you build equity, and we get a lot of comments back on that also. So we feel really good about starting this. I mean, it was a little rough to get started with the U. It's a behemoth institution. They thought we were crazy. They were not interested. Somebody championed the idea, And now it's a mainstay. We're doing this 10 or 12 years. I can't remember.
Yeah, we've had about 500 kids come through our dinners. That's a lot of impact.
Just briefly touch on the Notre Dame and the De La Salle.
Well, it appears that as a couple we don't participate as much as we initiate. I mean, it's hard for us to. I think we're maybe not good joiners. I was fortunate when they let me in the club. That's the only time I really wanted to join something. At Notre Dame, I'm a founding director of Irish Angels, which invests in Notre Dame DNA startup companies, which I started through a thing called Fish Taco that Rick was referring to when we first met. And that, it's been very successful, in a lot of ways, and it's very prideful of us that we started that. I think De La Salle, though, is where I graduated from high school, and we started an initiative there called Seniors Teaching Seniors. And what we were passionate about is that, for us, it really came down to two things. If you're going to live in life, what is the expanse of your life? And it became pretty simple to explain that you can live in 7 generations. When we talk about this to the high school students, them being the seniors, it's not uncommon that a lot of students will know their great-grandparents through their great-grandchildren. That's 7 generations. What are you going to miss if you don't recognize and you don't take advantage of what is going on in those 7 generations? We talk about that. And we talk about how do you do that? So we created this thing called the relevance curve, where, you start out, and then when you're in your 40s, you're at your earning peak, and you're in your 50s, and then pretty soon, you're the oracle, and everybody wants to know how you did it or what the information is. Then you get to your mid 70s, and you fall off like a rock. You're sitting in a corner. Nobody asks you what's going on. Your contribution is not wanted. In other words, you're not relevant. So in order to kick that curve out so that you can be relevant for 10 more years, so you can take advantage of the 7 generations, the tail end of the 7 generations, the only way that we figure that you could do that is to continue to engage in the next generation and let them tell you what it is. Our opening line is, tell us why we're so dumb. And my God, they tell us. I mean, they let you know. But at the end of it, it becomes very clear that we understand their needs, their vocabulary. We understand what their aspirations are and their fears. What was the common fear?
They're afraid of being alone. I think the kids are so involved with their phones and with what's going on with their phones and texting back and forth on their phones, they don't have any idea of how to have a conversation with a real person. And the girls especially were afraid that they would get married, have kids, and by the time they were in their early 30s, they'd be divorced. And then what do they do? And then how do they handle their situation? How do they take care of their kids? It's, did anybody see the movie The Intern with De Niro and Anne Hathaway? She was afraid that if she got divorced, that she wouldn't be able to be buried with anybody. Did you that where would they bury her? And I kind of reflect back on that with these kids that are seniors. They're afraid. We asked them what they want to know from us. They want to know how to write a note. They want a thank you note or a letter like a letter that they would have gotten from their grandparents, if they were not living in the same city. So it's amazing to me that they're afraid.
I think another thing that we learned about that is that they want to succeed, and they're unfamiliar with the changing of everything, of how that's going to happen to them. They know that just having an education is not it, and they realize that they're not streetwise and they're not worldly, because they're so used to Siri. What's the time in Paris? I mean, they didn't have to know that Paris is X number of hours, because I don't know, X number of hours ahead or behind you. They just asked Siri. And they don't have to ask anybody older because they can ask Siri. So they're not interested in asking anybody like us with gray hair because they can ask Siri. But what they're missing is what Carol's talking about. They're missing how do you get the mortar between the two generations so that you actually get something from it.
Great, thank you. Questions from the audience? Anybody have anything? Yes, right up here.
So I come from a long history of family businesses, and we talked briefly before this. I'm curious about if you two have any rituals that you have on a day-to-day basis to frankly keep your mental sanity between the two of you.
So if you didn't hear that on either side, it was about rituals in the family and between the two of them to create a bond as well as keep them balanced and sane.
Saturday morning coffee. For whatever reason, this has evolved. It's nothing that we planned ahead of time, but oftentimes in the office, I'm in my office, Larry's in his office, the kids are doing whatever they're doing in their meetings and stuff. And I'll go into Larry's office and I'll want to ask him some questions about what's going on, what's happening, who said this to what and whatever. And he won't answer me because he's in the middle of something and he just, I can't talk about that now. And I feel he'll go like this. And at that point, I feel kind of left out, like, whoa, can't I know what's happening? So what we found is that on Saturday morning, I'll get up and make coffee and then he'll come in and it's just a really good time just to kind of sit and emote about what happened during the week. And what we didn't talk about or what he meant when he went like this to me. So Saturday morning coffee is one of the rituals, I would say.
I'd say my favorite ritual is that a long time ago when we put a budget together and you list all the things that are really important, what you're going to pay for first, I told Carol, the first line item is your beauty. Spend whatever you need to look as gorgeous as the day I saw you.
Hair and nails.
Hair and nails.
Hair and nails.
So the ritual is hair and nails.
So the top of the budget says hair and nails. Okay, so then what's number 3? Hair, nails, and?
Well, I think the second one is that I just, the ritual is just to keep my marriage promise to her. Yeah, that's really important and challenging at times.
Other questions? In the back. So if you didn't hear it on either side of the room, gentlemen in a relationship like Carol and Larry's, working together, living together, but no children yet. Kind of the first part of the question is managing the children. How do you do that? And then the second part of the question, fast forward some amount of time. How do you keep the children focused on doing children stuff when you got kind of the insanity of the work life and stuff?
Well, when the kids are babies, it's really, it's easy because, you're working, you can hire a nanny, as long as your child is getting taken care of and they're getting their food and they're getting their playtime and everything else. When they're little, nannies work. When they get to be a little older, they know you're not there. So at that point, somebody has to take a break and say, okay, I'm going to be the primary person at home. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a nanny helping you do whatever, if you've got the money to do whatever it is that needs to be done. But what I found with my kids is that, you can talk about quality time. So you say, okay, well, I'll be home from work at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk and we'll do this and we'll do that. I'm telling you, if you're not there when those kids come bursting through the door at 3 o'clock off the bus, and they just have diarrhea of the mouth to tell you everything that went on in their day, you can't expect them to say at 6 o'clock at night over the dinner table what actually happened, because you know what? They won't. You'll just say, well, how was your day? And they'll say, it was good. It was good. So somebody needs to take on the responsibility of making sure that those kids have that nurturing when they come home from school. And we used to have 7 o'clock homework. I used to sit at the dining room table with all of my kids, and we used to do homework at that table. This is when they were in grade school, not when they were in high school and involved in sports and all that kind of stuff. But we used to do homework together every night. When the kids got involved in sports, does anybody have time bake on your oven? Okay, so what I would do is I would put dinner in the oven before I left to go to the sporting events, so that when we were done with the sporting events, we'd come home, dinner was ready, we weren't stopping at McDonald's, we weren't stopping at My Burger, we were coming home and we were eating a dinner at home at the dinner table. And I think that was a positive influence in their development.
One last one over here.
So you talked about this relationship between love, marriage, and work as exceptionally natural. But who modeled the way for you? Were there mentors? Were there other couples speaking to you, or were you gathering from other best practices and other couples that
Sure.
Is this
Sure. If didn't hear it over here, who were the role models? Where did they learn about this? Was there anybody that mentored them?
No.
Both our mothers were mothers that stayed home. You know, my mother didn't work, Larry's mom didn't work.
I told Carol in the beginning, you know, when that the only thing I really wanted out of my life with her was to have a great marriage and a great family. And I wasn't going to chase the money, and I wasn't going to chase the friends, and I wasn't going to chase the status, but I would concentrate on making sure that we had a great marriage and a great family. And I think having that resound over and over again just leads you to do some of the things that we're talking about. I mean, it's a full commitment to making it work.
I think the trust that we had in each other to do the right thing for each other and for our family. And as a woman, I had to be open to what his aspirations were. There was compromise, but you know, you have to know your man. You have to know what your husband wants, just as he has to know what I want. I mean, you have to be introspective and understand who you're married to. And I think that once you get that figured out, it'll come together. And like I said, it's natural.
Okay, so it's 1 o'clock. For anybody who hasn't been here before, we have as long as you want to stay. Excuse me. But to close it up, any final thoughts, words of wisdom, just closing comments for the audience?
You know, we live an entrepreneurial life. We are not subject to anybody else's decisions or authority. Whatever we make, we get to spend. Whatever we lose, we get to suffer. And we are really comfortable with that. I've never had a job. I've never had my paycheck signed by anybody else. And, you know, we've done, together depending upon the ebb and flow of where our children landed, about 30 different things. I don't regret any of them. I wouldn't change anything. And I think that part of that is because you've just got this commitment to your marriage, you've got a commitment to your family, and you've got a commitment to the lifestyle that you really want, which is independence that allows you to make whatever decision you think is necessary for your marriage or for your family.
I think freedom is important. We do what we want to do when we want to do it. We don't have anybody telling us what to do, except our kids sometimes.
Don't Don't forget your mother.
My poor mother, she's been gone for a few years, so. Yeah, the confidence in each other, the freedom that we have is wonderful. And, we live our life every day. There are no regrets. I think there are things that we wish that maybe we would have done differently, but you can't have a do-over. So,
And love is fun. Love is fun.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for attending. The video will be up on clubby.com in about a week or so. Clubby.com will also tell you when the next events are, as well as that sheet that's on your table. Thank you again for coming, and hope to see you soon.